Attention is our most important resource. If you can't pay attention, you can't control your life. This video will help you to improve your focus and even increase your motivation so you can finally move forward. If you're like me, then you have tried different productivity apps and hacks and methods, and nothing really seems to help. What we need to do is to understand how attention works. And I am someone who struggled with attention my whole life. I know exactly how this feels, and I had to learn it the hard way. I wasted years trying different things and nothing seemed to help. I know that my life would look very different if I would have known what I'm about to teach you today. Before we check out some of the scientific studies I researched and the theory behind it, let's take a walk. My friend, today I thought I'm gonna try something new, and I'm just gonna talk to you while I'm out here in nature. I love nature so much, and I feel so good every time I go out, you know? I love it here, even though it's a little bit dark. Oh, look at this nice light here, my face. Look at this amazing light coming through the trees, and we can see it here on the road. So what's actually the problem? Why is it so hard for us to maintain focus? The main thing we need to realize is that attention is finite. It is like a battery, and it depletes over time. And we need to know what activities deplete our attention and how we actually replenish the battery of attention. We deplete our attention by doing work, by doing our tasks at hand, but also when we check social media, when we answer messages, when we look at notifications. So we're burning through our mental energy without even realizing it. I mean, just think about your typical day. You sit at your laptop, you do your work, you see a notification pop up, you read it, you answer some messages, you know how it is. You switch context every now and then, and by doing that, your focus will just get less and less and less. And before you know it, you wasted your precious attention for things that don't really matter. So you might think you are taking a break by looking at your phone, checking social media, and so forth, right? That's our default mode when we want to take a break. We look at another screen, a smaller screen with many things going on. And the truth is that this is not a break, not for our brain. So we're just fooling ourselves. We think this is the way we can replenish our resources, but it's the opposite. It actually depletes our attention even more, and it depletes our motivation as well. And what helps is to reduce the dopamine level. So really don't use the phone. Don't use the phone when you take a break. In the 1980s, two psychologists discovered something that completely changed the way we think about focus. So basically, you operate on two different modes of attention. The first one is directed attention, which means you focus on a task at hand and you try to ignore all the distractions around you. And the second mode is effortless attention, which means you basically let your mind wander. You do focus on certain things, but you don't force anything. That's why it feels effortless. And how do these two modes work together? For meaningful tasks, we need to be able to direct our attention, right? That's basically the attention we want. We want to be able to zone in and to do what is important. But when we do this for a while, our attention will be gone. Like the battery will be empty. If we are trying to focus, to direct our focus, it will stop working. We will reach a state of mental fatigue, of cognitive overload, and even though we want it, we cannot use the attention anymore. So we need to switch modes. We need to do this intentionally, where we enter the mode of effortless attention, which means we just relax. We don't try to focus on something specific. We just focus on one thing and another thing and just let our mind, our focus wander. Think about how you feel when you stare into fire. That crackling and the silence that usually occurs when people gathering around the fire. Just things get silence. People start connecting to whatever is around them. The same is for water. If you're like me, you love staring into water look at the waves crashing. When you do that, you experience effortless attention, which is how we restore our attention, which will help us to use directed attention again. All right, so how exactly does this work? Now, how do we engage in effortless attention?
All right, let's talk about the 3 studies just real quick so we get the theory down.
One group walked through nature for 50 minutes, and the other group walked through some city streets. The same distance, the same pace, but completely different results. Turns out the people who walked in nature improved their memory, their working memory, and their attention by 20%. And the city walkers, nothing. No improvement. And the cool thing is, other people tried to look at nature images alone instead of going out, and this also improved their working memory and their focus. Crazy, right? And in study number 2, it gets even more interesting. Again, we have 2 groups of people, and they did this for 40 minutes, and then they put the participants in a EEG machine to monitor their brain activity. What they found out is that only the nature group actually had a change in brain activity. Their brains literally became more alert to mistakes. So they became more capable of sustaining their attention. So they don't just feel better, they actually improve how their brain works from just walking through nature for 40 minutes. But it was study number 3 that really got me. That is a really interesting finding, and that is they tested people with clinical depression, major depression. And again, they had them go on a walk through nature for 40 or 50 minutes. And before these participants went on a walk, the researchers actually had them think about painful memories that should trigger negative emotions. So they were preoccupied, and then they sent them on their walk. And turns out the people who went through the nature again improved their working memory, their attention, and even their mood. So it countered a lot of the symptoms people with depression have just by going out there. And people who walked through a city, again, the second group, didn't feel any effects. Right? So you see a pattern here. People who walk in nature, good. People who walk city, nothing. Not good.
Studies aside, I guess there's a reason why it doesn't come as a surprise that nature is actually good for us. Because deep down we just know that, you know? I mean, science is just slow in that regard. You know, I love science, but you got to say that, you know, by just following your intuition, you will come to these conclusions yourself. You know, you don't even have to study psychology for that.
So think about what this means. We are not talking about meditation retreats, life overhauls. We don't need this big thing that changes our life. We just need a little bit of time and nature, you know, just moving a little bit through nature. That's literally the big secret. That's why I'm doing it right now. Let's switch to nature, Patrick.
You know what happens when you are on the path? It is a path that someone else built, and it's not yours, and it will lead you only to places where everybody else has been. So what we want to do now is to go off the path and go right there. Follow me. Now we're walking straight into the forest. It's a bit, I'm a bit nervous. Who knows? I know that there are some wild, how do you call them? These wild pigs, boars. Are they called boars here in Europe? Or like these little warrior pigs, you know, they get very aggressive when they're having children. So I hope they're not here now. All right, I can't believe this works. I got to show you guys how this actually looks. I need to take a photo. Here, that's me. Because I don't have a tripod, so I have to keep the camera somewhere supported on the ground.
I think no amount of content can really convey what I feel right now by just being here in nature, surrounded by a lot of flies, actually. I hope no animal died around here. Anyway, something's happening here with me. I already feel much more relaxed. I feel like I can connect with you even much more than before because I'm much more myself. I don't have to work through a script or something like that. I interact with the world around me.
Look at this. Fruit. But I don't know them. Might be poisonous. Let's get away from here fast.
In order to deliver work, right? We want to feel unstuck. We want to be less frustrated. We want to be confident that we are up to the task, that we are able to do the meaningful work we are meant to do. And I feel a big roadblock is attention, especially if you're an ADHD person like me. So you need to try anything that you can and latch onto that works. I, at the moment, experiment with waking up and starting to work right away because my mental load is very low in the morning. My cognitive load is low. And if I just enter the most important work of the day, I am most focused in this moment before I start going out, talking to people, making myself some food, where I increase the cognitive load, where I already get tired. Even if I have a healthy morning routine, it might keep me from actually doing my best because I deplete my attention already, even doing these restorative things like ice bath, sauna, workout, whatever. So what I would do is wake up first, do the work, make sure I have 2 to 3 or more hours of deep work, then do stuff that I would do in my morning routines, and that would be things of a more restorative nature. At the very least, I want to turn away from the laptop and look at a wall and just stare into nothingness and force myself to be bored as fuck. I've noticed that when I sit there, I just stare against the wall, or I just meditate, I get really bored very quickly, and I can't wait to continue with my work because I lower the level of dopamine, right? The baseline is lowered because I just resensitize, really. I still need my dopamine hit, but I have more control over where I get my dopamine hit, and that is my work, which leads to me being more focused and more motivated at work, and which it creates a positive loop, because when I do this, I am more and more excited, right? I get more dopamine from my work, which, because it's a reward system, my brain notices, okay, this is great, this is fun, this is good. I get excited the next day again, right? So I create this beautiful loop of motivation and focus. Okay, now we know nature is great. Okay, big surprise. But the question is, why does nature work so well? Let's look again at the attention restoration theory by Rachel and Stephen Kaplan, because they found 4 key ingredients that make the difference between a break that actually restores you and one that just wastes your time. Element number 1, being away. We want to mentally and physically distance ourselves from our usual demands. It means stepping away from the desk, from our notifications, our to-do list. Even just looking out of the window can help us to temporarily escape work mode. The second one is extend. The environment needs to be rich enough to engage you. A parking lot will just not cut it. But a park with trees, birds, and leaves, and beautiful grass, that could make a difference. This will give your mind an opportunity to wander. The space needs enough scope for your thoughts to move freely. Number 3, fascination. They actually call it soft fascination because this is just us looking at the clouds passing, at the leaves rustling, at the waves crashing, the fire crackling, you know. That is when we just effortlessly focus on something that intrigues us, like nature. It's just the perfect thing, that because we're wired to zone into nature, you know. Number 4, compatibility. The environment needs to match what you actually want to do. The key is it has to feel effortless and not like another task. So when all these 4 elements come together, restoration just happens. It just happens automatically, right? All you need to do is to push yourself a little bit. By the way, I wonder how Patrick's doing on his walk. He doesn't go so often.
Right, so I just checked my maps and turns out I went in the wrong direction for a while. So I try not to look at the phone anymore and find my way out. I think I have a rough direction now, but this can be so wrong. Oh my god, guys, I wish I could have shown you this. That never happened to me. there was a deer passing by on this very road here. It just happened here on this road. Okay, I think I am back on the road. Um, sun's going down soon. Can't believe I've made it back to the village. Look at this. That's the church. And we have some children playing in the back. I'm back. Oh, I am back. It's civilization, guys. Wow, who would have thought? There's a positive ending to that narrative.
I thank you so much for being with me here. I'm so grateful that I could share this with you here outside and do this little experiment with you together. Let me know what you think about this way of communicating, of doing this. Was it interesting? Was it engaging? Did you learn something? Tell me anything you want in the comments. I reply to you. I'd love to be in touch. Leave a like or share this video if you want with friends. And these flies are getting more. I need to leave. So see you in the next one. Bye bye.